YouTube, this is High Radical. I'm just going to address a video that this Greenman3610 put up recently, responding to something that I tried to call him out on earlier. It was in the comment section. It's a little hard to do justice in the comment section, and that's part of the reason I'm making this response to his video. The video, he has this series that he does, Climate Denial, Crock of the Week. And in this one, he addresses the urban heat island crock, as he puts it. I'm hoping he'll accept this as a response video to his. Otherwise, and well, all the same, I'll have a link to his in my video comment box. So, getting to the issue, he really doesn't. The problem is he's not taking the actual total argument. He's attacking pretty much a straw man. And if you want examples of this, he does a nice job visually. If you go in his video, he takes an image of the lights of the world on a projection of the world, and he inverts it. It's this light and night thing. Anyway, if you go to his video, and I'll try to get something up here on mine, an image at least of what I'm talking about from his video, but he overlays where the anomalies, the heat anomalies, where it's warmer or colder than usual, and he overlays that with the transparency over this inverted map of the world at night. So you see all the city centers, and then you see what areas are warmer than usual and which areas are cooler than usual. And he is trying to do this to demonstrate that the urban heat island effect, as he broadly presents it, is incorrect, because it doesn't line up with where all the cities are. You see America and all these cities, and it's not warmer there. And he uses this as proof for his claim that they've compensated for this phenomena, for the fact that your asphalt and your concrete from your cities impacts the warmth. Like at meteorological stations where you're measuring air temperature, it's going to be warmer in the city because there's all this concrete. So, but to kind of get and to point out where he's going, make sure you're there. It's around 3:22 or 3:23. If you play it and then pause it right as it's transitioning, that works. Hopefully I do have this up here and you can see it okay. But the issue is not have they compensated for it, but where have they compensated for it and where haven't they? And let me explain that. You'll say, well, if they've compensated for it, they've compensated for it, and that's not necessarily the case. If in order to compensate for it, you have to know, relative to all of your stations all throughout the world, thousands of meteorological stations, you have to know how big a city, all these cities around them, with any given radius have been, how much, what coverage they've had, what proximity they've had to all these meteorological stations over time. Now, I don't know of anybody that's gone through and analyzed each one of these meteorological stations relative to each year, relative to the urban growth within these areas, all over the world completely. I'm sure there's got to be some extrapolation, and if you look at it, look at the map, see where it's warmest. Now, first of all, note on the map, this map is effective in the pure propaganda sense that a lot of people don't adjust in their minds for the proportion errors, the distortion that happens when you put the Earth, if you project an image of the Earth onto a rectangle, everything away from the equator, the north and the south, are going to appear massive. So those red spots really stand out because they're in the north, and then there's one down in the south, and they look huge. If you were to actually put those in proper proportion as the map was wrapped around the world, they would be significantly smaller than they are. That's just a side corollary. But going into, if you look at where the warm area is, right around Russia, a big red area, you'll note that right after, all of the U.S. seems to be, pretty okay. You go into Europe, and as right as you're hitting Eastern Europe, heading into Russia, that all this heat is up. Now, the claim, as I've understood it with the urban heat islands, is that Russia had grown faster as these urban centers had grown faster than was projected for. And so you've got this massive swath of Asia where these cities have grown up around where they were initially out at the airport, which was initially out, this is just an example of what likely happened. They were out near the airport, and as these cities throughout Russia have grown around them, and there's been significant urbanization in Russia, massive urbanization, lots of people moving away from the country into cities. But if these cities have been growing faster than what has been calculated in all these compensations for, and the urban heat island effect has impacted all of these. And I think it is interesting, because if you look at the map, you'll see it's right around there. It's right around Russia and Eastern Europe, where all of a sudden it's a lot warmer than all these other places. If it's all these areas that are disconnected, that haven't been compensated, because clearly, you've got plenty of people looking and that are aware of what's going on here. But unless you have these scientists in their calculations and their compensations, unless they are aware of the totality of the situation, and not merely the totality now, but throughout the time that they're doing it, and at all of these locations. So it's basically a survey of the whole Earth you'd have to do to get, an accurate. Otherwise, you're extrapolating. You're taking one thing and assuming that it's the same across an area, and that is the argument. Not that they haven't compensated for it, but merely that where and when they've compensated for it is not accurate enough. So, hope this helps.